Hey, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. Man, there's been a lot of lives this week, huh? Didn't necessarily plan it that way, but that's just, kind of how it worked out. But anyway, I have a very, 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 very special guest with me today. This guy I met for the first time in Georgia. We were speaking at the Next Step conference, and he was talking about what he does. And I'm going to tell you, there's not many people that have the energy I do or can keep going like I do. But if I have one that can make me look poor, it might be this guy right here. So tons of energy. He's fighting for freedom every single day. And I tell you guys this all the time about how you can buy your way to energy independence, and you can buy your way to water independence, and you can buy your way to a lot of things. But food independence is the one you cannot buy your way to. And this guy's a beast, and I've learned a ton from him. And so I hope you guys enjoy. So why don't we all just welcome Jim Gale, and we'll see what's been going on with him. Here we go.
Hey, thank you, brother, man. It's my favorite hat. I wear this every single day. You gave it to me at the Next Steps conference, and I immediately knew we were connected, man. Oh, yeah, it's been an incredible ride, and it's time. It's time for everybody to step up and take the poisons out and grow food. When we do that one simple thing, we change the world.
That's right. Amen. Well, hey, I don't know how many people in my audience know a ton about you or don't know. So real quick, you're in so many things. You're a lot like me, right? Your hands are in everything. To tell us what you've been doing. Tell us what you do.
So I'll start with, and I just got some consulting from incredible teammates. When I first started telling the story, I started telling the story from perspective of why, right? Why am I so excited about this? And the answer is quite simple. And every parent will recognize this immediately. I've got 4 daughters. And it was about 2007 when I learned that the world is controlled by multiple levels of insanity, right? Whether you look at it from a political perspective or a psychopath perspective or an insane billionaire agenda perspective or an evil versus good or even an AI perspective. All the perspectives you look at it from, the one solution is when we take the poisons out of our hearts and our minds and our stomachs, and we treat ourselves with love and care and joy, then there's something magical about that. And so about 17 years, or about 2007, when I started learning about this, I also learned the science of permaculture. And permaculture is an agricultural design science that has proven everything I'm saying to be true. It's not a hypothetical that we can change the world. Mass extinction, deforestation, cancer, diabetes, heart disease, tyranny. When we take the poisons out, it's a fact. So when I went through that period of struggle because I learned that the world is a mess, then I started focusing on the solutions, and that has led me to a place of joy.
Yeah, so you do a lot of different things. You have community, you have projects, you have TV, you have so many things that you're doing, Jim. So tell us what you're up to, because I know you're like me. You're into everything.
Yeah, I'm into everything because I'm looking at this like from all these different perspectives. And how do we change the world? Everything starts with a question. How do we catalyze a shift in awareness that leads to mass adoption of taking the poisons out of our world and then using our resources wisely? And that has been my fundamental question. It's evolved a lot over the last 16, 17 years. But at the end of the day, that's it. It's that simple. So then when I ask that question obsessively, now when you're obsessed about something, there's a scarcity-driven energy about obsession. And it was about 2.5 years ago, I wrote a letter to Del Bigtree, and I went and saw him, and I handed it to him, and he graciously took it and read it, and he said, "Holy shit, this is good." And then he had me on his show, and that was Earth Day 2021. So what is that, 26 months ago? We are now assisting people in 54 countries and 50 US states, helping them grow food. The easy way, right? I am not a farmer, and I never want to be a farmer. Right? Farming is hard work, and I thank God for farmers. I'm so thankful for farmers. what I like to do is show people how they can create all of the food they need in their own backyard, in their own front yard, right around them. So we don't need farmers anymore. We literally become harvesters. Mm-hmm. And that's what people go, what are you talking about? You have to have farmers. No, you don't. When you put in a perennial edible landscape, a landscape that provides more food every single year, the less you maintain it. And again, people's minds are going nuts right now. Like, what, that doesn't make sense. Everything we know about living in abundance is wrong. Scarcity and fear are the ultimate lies that have been told to us through humanity. So then the question is, how do we change the world? And that's the layers that we'll get into here.
Yeah, pretty cool. And so you were talking about land. So how much land does it take?
There are many people who feed their families on a quarter acre.
Yeah.
You know, a quarter acre, you've really got to use permaculture. You got to stack the layers, right? So underground, you've got your roots and tubers, your potatoes and turmerics and gingers and yuccas and cassavas and taros. And then on the herbaceous layer, the ground layer, you've got a lot of herbaceous stuff, a lot of mushrooms, a lot of medicines right there. And then you've got your shorter shrubs and bushes and your taller shrubs and bushes, your shorter fruit trees and your overstory fruit and nut trees. And you've got chickens running around. And since you've created paradise, you've got deer coming in, you've got turkey coming in, you've got everything you need. You don't even need fences for animals in this world of magical, radical abundance. You just need to create the environment where life thrives. And then you steward the land. You harvest the food as needed while maintaining the balance of the ecosystem.
Yeah, you know, Bud, you inspire me in a lot of ways. You know, we've got 2 big gardens where I live here, and then we've got lots of woods where lots of stuff grows. And man, I struggle producing enough food to feed my family. And I have all kinds of land. I have a never ending, I mean, I could plant for the rest of my life and be fine. But I think what you're doing is so magical, because if normal people like me who don't come too easy can figure it out, we can change the world.
We can. You know, there's like 890 million acres of farmland in the United States alone. When we take out the ornamentals and we transform half of the 44 million acres of lawn that we have, the lawn that takes more human resources and poisons and chemicals and pesticides than any other crop, right? That we win awards to see who can have the most fake looking yard that looks like there's no life, there's no diversity in the yard, right? Oh, when we simply turn half of those lawns into this type of perennial regenerative landscape, 90%, if not 100% of the 890 million acres will go back to forest. Like the buffalo will roam again. Nature will be restored. And guess what? It's going to happen like that. In the next 18 months, we're going to reach that tipping point, and it's going to happen so fast. It's going to be beautiful.
Yeah. So why do you say 18 months?
Because I look at this from an energy perspective, right? So in permaculture, we look at energy transfer. Now, there's a document called Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars that was written 70 years ago. And it lays out the war that we're in right now in great detail. Okay. And it looks at human beings as energy systems. And from a control, scarcity, fear, evil perspective, their perspective is to control the mind of their asset, which is humanity, right? The slave, right? Goethe said, none are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe they are free. Right. When I first heard that, I'm like, screw off. I'm not a slave. I was offended. And then I laughed at myself, because then I realized taxation is theft and it's held up by force and violence. And I don't agree with anything they spend their freaking tax dollars on nowadays. Right? Especially when, you know, just got a debt ceiling raised, another $5 trillion just got stolen from everybody, which the whole system. So anyway, so that's the negative side of it. Now, in permaculture, we turn the problem into the solution. So yeah, let's look at this as energy. Let's look at how can we put a little energy in and get an exponential energy out, right? Well, imagine when we take some of the existing energy structures, prisons, schools, police force, military. How about an election campaign? The election campaign is it's a marketing campaign. It's the most intense marketing campaign that the world has ever seen. Biden supposedly spent $1.2 billion on his election campaign. Right? So you take 10% of that, right? And you have strategic election campaigns where the candidates are going into the prisons and the schools and the city parks. And in fact, we've got a very tactical thing going on right now, which is going to change the world. And we are going to be calling out very directly the candidates who we believe may be ethical. Now, there might not be any, right? This might all be smoke and mirrors. But there might be a couple, right? If anybody out there listening, think of whatever candidate that you think might be an ethical, good person. Now imagine that candidate in a prison, right? And they're working with the inmates and they're teaching the inmates permaculture, gardening, how to grow their own food. What do you think, Tag, would happen if the inmates all produced all of their own food in the prisons?
Oh, they'd come out productive.
Yeah.
They'd come out self-reliant. They'd come out less dependent. They'd come out not as much of a slave. All kinds of things would happen, Jim.
All kinds of things. And guess what? This has been done. It was done in California where they had a gardening program. Now, what we're talking about, it was a pilot program, and the recidivism rate went from over 60% to under 10%.
Man.
That gives me the chills. That one thing is a world-changing statistic. That's basically the end of crime.
Yeah.
Or at least the end of the trends that we've been seeing.
Right.
That's nuts. So now we're not talking about a hypothetical solution to diminish crime by more than 50% by what's already been shown. We're talking about a demonstrable solution to crime. Now, if a candidate campaigned on the solutions, and this is why I don't currently fully trust any of them.
Yeah.
None of them are campaigning on the solutions yet. We're going to make it so they cannot not campaign on the solutions.
Yeah. So when you talked about you have a tactical thing coming up, can you talk about it?
I can. We are putting out documents very strategically and tactically that invite the ethical candidates to step up. And we are going to, for the next 3 to 6 months, we're going to be inviting them. Hey, friendly people, come on, let's do the right thing. If they don't, they'll hear about it. It'll be on their desk. In fact, it's already on a couple of their desks and they've seen it. If they ignore it, then we are going to start compelling. We are going to start being very clear and we're going to call them out. And this is we being all of us. All ethical people, it's time for us all to stand together and call for the solutions that are proven in our world, right? So then if they don't do that, then we're going to demand it. But all the while, the key to this is not that we believe that they're all of a sudden going to be good people. The key to this is inspiring the individual to start planting seeds.
Yeah, how amazing is that? Now you've got some TV stuff coming up too, right?
Yeah, lots of TV stuff, and we're integrating it all in. A show on Discovery was just at Galt's Landing for the last 3 days, and it's called Modern Homestead. I mean, how perfect is that name?
Right.
Love these guys, Evan and Jana, and then their partners. They spent 3 days filming because, again, we are not just talking about it. We're living it. We're at Galt's Landing where our house will be done in 2 months and our family will be there full time. I can't wait to have you visit, buddy. this place we started about 15 months ago on the primary development area. And right now we have on a 1 acre food forest, we have enough food to feed multiple families all the food they need. Mm. And it's less maintenance than a lawn because they're all perennial plants. We've got cows in a pasture. We've got chickens. Yesterday we were filming and there's turkeys running by, right? We've got grouse running through. We've got butterflies. We put beehives up about 7 months ago. We got 30 pounds of honey. Yeah. I was hoping if we'd have got 3 pounds of honey, I would have been proud of that honey.
Right.
We got 30 pounds of honey. Like, I don't know anything about cows or bees. And that's the thing is we believe we've been programmed the 3 levels of BS, right? There's belief systems, there's bad science, and there's bullshit. Mm-hmm. We've been programmed to believe that growing food is hard. Mm-hmm. How much time have you spent growing the oak tree in your backyard or the birch or the pine? People go, what are you talking about? You don't spend any time growing trees. No, that same plant could be an edible plant. It could be something that provides food. All the bushes around our houses could be blueberries, blackberries, raspberries. Every fence in our world should be a food fence. It's a built-in trellis. So that's one program. We've had about 5 people come out, film crews come out in the last 6 months. But now I just got off of the phone with a Hollywood producer who wants to do a show called The Land of Plenty, which we've been kind of working on. We've got the pilot done already with that one. So it looks like that's going to be picked up by a big name. In fact, ABC tried to write me a contract. Or was it NBC? It was like 2 years ago, and I didn't care because they wanted me to sign a contract with their morality clause in it. Mm. Now, I don't find these entities very moral or ethical. Right? So how are you doing, buddy? I love, because you have cracked a code in developing that I failed at a lot here in Nicaragua and Costa Rica. How's it going for your piece?
Oh man, it's exciting. It's a ton of work. I was helped a guy stand a barn, another homestead this week, and so that was fun. And I wanted to tell you a funny story about that. I was cutting a road through my forest today, and just a 4-foot wide road. I need to build a fence. And so anyway, I cut this out, and then my beautiful wife comes down and she goes, "Oh, look, there's grapes. And oh, there's blackberries. Look, there's black raspberries. And oh, there's gooseberries. And oh, there's, just in the woods, just growing wild, And so she was super excited today and I thought of you because I was out there. I knew we were going to do this later today. But anyway, back to the community, man. It's going good. We just added another new homesteader who bought 80 acres, not very far from me. And literally just in a week ago. And so we added another one. I think that's 4 this year that I've added to the, I think 7 or whatever I added last year. And we just keep doing it, man. And, I joke with people all the time that we're going to take over the county, and we are. Give enough of us, we'll own it.
I tell your story often. This idea about taking over the local counties, because we don't get permits for anything we do. I'm completely separate from that system, and I'm doing it strategically by design. I am aware that people from the county might show up and they might demand that I cease all of what we're doing and that I pay and all that stuff. And at that point, I am going to, if that happens, I am going to first invite them to see a better way than they're currently doing. And if they continue along, then we're going to get our video cameras out, and we, being a bunch of people, generals and Green Berets and colonels and doctors and lawyers and all these badasses, and we are going to bring our cameras and we're going to shine a light on the individual perpetrators of violence, and we are going to share with them a better way. And guess what? They're not showing up. They don't want that. And again, I'm inviting them to participate because we have the solution to the local food supply chain problem, the local diabetes and cancer and heart disease problem. We have the solution to all the local problems when we come together locally and we change the way we do it. What the govern means manage, control, or steer, and mente means mind. What the mind controllers will allow us to do is cut everything down in certain areas, like on our cattle pasture, and they'll allow us to poison the shit out of it with glyphosate products. What they won't allow me to do is what I'm doing, and that's growing 230 different species of edible plants currently.
Yeah.
It's illegal. Yet what they're doing is unlawful, right? What we're doing is lawful, and that supersedes legal.
Yeah, how badass is that? I love that attitude. If more people would have that attitude, we'd have way less problems. I tell people this all the time, all the time. So tell me about Galt's, and I know a little bit about Galt's Landing, but Galt's Landing, but for the people who are in here, I really think this is badass too. So tell us about the place.
So
how'd you pick the name?
Yeah, I know. So my buddy Brian Hickok, a descendant of Wild Bill, his father gave him the book Atlas Shrugged when he was 16 years old. So he started waking up way before I did. In fact, it was like he came to visit me in Costa Rica in 2011. He moved there for a while with his family because he thought the shit was going to hit the fan in 2012. A lot of us did. And he was telling me what was going on. He was saying, Jim, there are a group of people that are trying to kill the world. They're trying to destroy the world. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. No, they're not, because if they're going to do that, then they're going to suffer too. I didn't get it. And then that's the hardest pill for most people to swallow, is that black rock is not just the name of the entity, but it's the intention of the entity that is destroying the microbiome. It's destroying as much life on Earth as it can, right? And so when I finally got that, it was like a new revelation, a new level of awareness. Anyway, so then jumping back to today, he was already living here. We moved here. Galt's Landing was the name because it signifies, perseverance, individualism, and service by way of creating value for society. That's what it's all about. And service is the ultimate value for everybody involved, right? Voluntarism, the exchange of value. So we created a community. It's on 50 acres. It's just miraculously on a private 430-acre lake. We have the only dock on this private lake. There's only one other house on this massive lake. And then on the east, there's almost a mile-long paved runway that small jets can land on. And when we first went looking for a property to build our homes on, we said we want access to a runway or the ability to build one, and we want a lake. And everybody laughed at us. They said, there's nothing like that exists. There's no way you'll find that. And got a call a few weeks later, and there it was. So we have no grid. We're 100% off grid in every way, except for one, and that's internet, because we want to be able to share our message. Yeah. And we're putting the Garden of Eden in the place everywhere. We're just everywhere is just food production, massive amounts. And we've got tennis courts. We've got a volleyball court. We've got a pond. We've dug about a 4-acre pond, 25 feet deep. And then we use that soil, that dirt, to build up our land so it would be out of the flood zone. We had a 500-year flood about October, and we were 6 feet out of the highest watermark. So we're real good. And in the pond that we put about 14,000 fry, sunnies, crappies, bass, catfish, and then mosquito minnows, fatheads, and shiners. We created this ecosystem in the pond. And then we suck the water out of the pond to fertigate the food forest, which means to fertilize and irrigate as a combination. And it's all run on a solar irrigation timer. So it's no effort. And the food forest is just exploding to life.
Wow. Yeah. How cool is that? You sell blueprints for that stuff?
We do. That's exactly. So our business it's the most logical business in the world. We help people grow food during a food supply chain collapse. And we do it at scale. So we invite anybody who would like to participate in the solutions to all the world's biggest problems, and that's why I talk so much about you and what you've done, because you are fulfilling. It's a piece of the freedom puzzle, and you've nailed it.
Yeah, that is just so amazing. You know, I can't wait to come down and visit you down there and to learn myself, because, you know, and I talk about this on my channel all the time, and that, you know, energy independence, I got it. Water independence, I got it. No problem. You know, sewer independence, I got it. Debt independence, I got it. You know, financial independence, I'm square. But food independence is the one that kicks my ass the most. It just does.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'd love to be able to learn from the master like you, you know, and learn more. I try to. I watch your videos. I pay attention, you know, all of those kind of things. But so you have these movements going on all over the country, do you not?
We do. We have an incredible network of leaders. Yeah. We're creating a council. And some of my partners include General Blaine Holt, who's on Newsmax, I think, every single day. Very strategic guy. He went through a lot of stuff in the service and to make it up to general. And the first thing I asked him, because I don't trust anybody in government, right? And we had this open conversation, and he was very clear with me. You know, we're all going through a process of waking up. You know, every day I wake up. Every day I recognize my own ignorance in different areas of life. And thank God for that, right? It's fun. The more we recognize our own ignorance, the more fun life gets. Yeah. So he recognized that he retired, and then now he's speaking out in such beautiful ways. Doc Pete Chambers, the first doctor to become a Green Beret, same thing. He was vaccine injured. Then they demanded that he get all of his troops vaccinated. And he said no. He retired, and now he's a freedom advocate. And John Nolan from the Inspired Channel, Dr. Christian Northrup, and Theo Fleury, the hockey legend who was like Stanley Cup champ and Olympic champ. He is a trauma expert. And he said to me the other day, he said, Jim, trauma is the root of all human disease. And I was like, I almost fell off my chair. I've never heard anybody state it that clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Pat Miletich, 5-time UFC world champion, who now is a soil savior. Like, he goes from UFC guy to soil guy because he recognizes. And the thing that I love most about all these folks is they are already incredibly successful in their fields, but they're also some of the first in their fields to say, I do not comply with what's going on right now. And that to me, I just have so much epic respect. So anyway, we're bringing together this council of strategists and tacticians and thought leaders and influencers, and we're getting the message out very, very, like I said, strategically and tactically. And I'm learning a lot of these military words. I'm not much in the military. Yeah. So we're intent on one thing: to catalyze a shift that leads to mass adoption of taking the poisons out.
Yeah, so all these people, you know, who will watch this video later and who are watching this video now, where do they start? I get that question a lot.
Yes, that's such a great question, and here's how simple it is. Joyful. Start by intending to enjoy the process. Right? Start with the thought, I am going to enjoy creating my own self-reliance, my own freedom, my own abundance. And then if you're on a budget, let's say you got $20. There's a lot of people right now. There's all this liquidity going in the market, but it's going into the hands of a very few for the most part. And a lot of middle class is getting wiped out, and a lot of poor. If you got $20 and you commit to it, you can grow all of your own food. It'll take a little time, right? It'll take maybe a few years if you start with $20 and energy. And you go to the store and you buy some fruits and veggies. You take those fruits and veggies, you eat them, so you still get the nourishment, and then you take the seeds out of them, right? You can't buy the GMO crap or the stuff that doesn't have seeds in it. You buy stuff with seeds in it because that's nature's way. And then you go on YouTube and you type in or on some social media other than the communist one, which they kicked me off of. You type in, how do I propagate apples in Minnesota? How do I grow tomatoes in my closet in my condo in New York City, right? Wherever it is, you just figure out how to do it. Now, that's if you don't have much financial resources. If you do have financial resources, then design your yard. If you have land of any kind, the most important first step, and the first step that I pushed away for a while because I thought, oh, I'm just going to buy these trees. And I bought a whole nursery in Costa Rica. Like I said, I want all of it, right? It wasn't that much money there. It was like, I don't know, 15,000 bucks or something. And we took all the trees, we planted them all over. If I would have started that exact same thing with a design, and we would have started putting the guilds in the right place and doing the swales and doing the soil and putting the soil nitrogen fixers and the beneficial plants and the flowers and all. If we would have got a design first, it would have made all the difference in the world. 90%, 95% of those plants would have thrived and then just created offspring exponentially. The way we did it was we'll just kind of use our intuition and figure it out. So the first step is get a design. Design your yard with permaculture professionals. And then the next step is the install process. And the first place you want to plant a seed or a plant is one step out your back door, because it's an energy transfer. So how many calories does it take for me to gather a meal out of my backyard? And so it's zoned. Zone 1 is right outside your back door. Zone 2 is a little further out. Zone 3 might be your food forest. That might be 50, 60 feet away. Zone 4 is the forest all around your house. So you zone it properly so the energy transfer can be the most efficient.
I love that advice. So if there's somebody out there who wants this kind of help, I know you offer this. Talk about how would they get in touch with you if they wanted you to help them?
Cool. So we're at foodforestabundance.com, foodforestabundance.com. We have social media all over the place. We also, for those who want to talk to a designer first, we offer a free 30-minute consultation with one of our professional growers. And our intention, our mission is to help people grow food. So ask anything you want, and we're here to serve you. And what we're finding is the more that we serve you, the more abundance comes our way. So there's no scarcity in this model. The more we serve ourselves, our friends, and our families, the more things come to us. That's nature's way.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Now, I know you've got some goals for some academies. I don't know if you use that word or not, but some academies across the country. Let's talk about that process, because this is something I'm super interested in.
Yes. The Freedom Farm Academy is a culmination of everything we've learned. And I've made a lot of mistakes. When I was 30, I wrote my goals. I wanted to have $3 million in 3 years. I ended up starting a mortgage company, and it did $1.3 billion in revenue in 3.5 years. I bought a boat, lived on the ocean. I felt invincible, and yet I was bored silly. And I wasn't all that happy in a lot of ways. I wanted to be married. I wanted to have kids and all these different things. So anyway, where was I going with that? The academies. Okay. So then when I started learning this stuff, I started practicing all these things. I built fancy greenhouses and aquaponics and hydroponics, all sorts of different dehydration systems and canning and microgreens. I learned a ton of lessons, and all of them culminated in how I'm living now at Galt's Landing, which is the simplest thing in the world. I can go outside right now, anytime of the year. Now in Minnesota, 6 months of the year, or 4 or 5 months of the year, let's say. But here in Florida, any time of year, and I can gather within 5 minutes, I can harvest enough food to feed the whole family. Right? That's the type of landscapes that we want to design for you. So then the Freedom Farm Academy demonstrates that. So here in St. Cloud, and we have we have a tour that we do. It's called galtswalks.com. It's GaltsWalks.com. And we do tours, and we show people all of the functional components, the elements of being completely free, from the civil peace flag and the signs at our front gate that says implied consent is not granted, to the food forest everywhere, fruit trees and berry bushes and fences full of grapevines and passion fruit vines and chickens run around and all that stuff. And then solar and water systems. So we have all of the elements, and then we've turned this into a business where if somebody says, I want solar, Okay, great. Call this fella. This fella is phenomenal with solar. We get a commission of 5% or 3% or whatever the commission is. We're working with a guy named McKinley who does these steel frame homes that are the best homes on the market. I've built a lot of homes in my life. Steel frame, no wood. We keep the trees in the ground. There's no termites, no mold, no fire hazard issues, and it'll last forever, and it's durable as heck with steel frame. And it's 3D printed. It takes 1 day to put a 2,000-foot home steel frame up. 1 day. It's crazy. So we are connected with all these incredible suppliers. So then we become a showcase. So the #1 profit center for a Freedom Farm Academy is to inspire people to grow food and then design and install their food forest. Mm-hmm. It's like a landscaping business. So now when people come, they say, I want this at my house. Great. Here's the designer. And then when the design's done, here's the installer. We've got like $400,000 worth of installs going on right now at a 40% landscaping margin, which is typical. It's a great business model. And the most important part is everybody wins. Mm-hmm. You know, in fact, I say this a lot when people come to visit. We've got a lot of food. If we were the only ones with food during a food supply chain collapse, that would not be food security.
No, that would not be.
No, it would be hell. It would be hell stopping somebody who wants to feed their kids.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, I've got some people in the chat asking for me to drop a link to your designers. So you tell us again what that is, and I'll type it in there for them.
Foodforestabundance.com. It's funny. I get emotional even imagining the people coming and saying, "Can I have food?" And by the way, everybody who leaves one of our tours, they leave with food. Not here's a sweet potato. Which actually can grow into a whole bunch of more. But we give them plants. We give them starts of all kinds. And then you could start with food security, right? I think everybody should do that. Start with your sweet potatoes, your potatoes, your perennial spinaches. Start with plants that you could store. If you're living in a cold place.
One of us froze. I don't know who. My end looks fine for me. Well,
good. Am I back?
Oh, I can hear you. I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Oh, that's so weird. Huh. Let me, all right. Well, if you can still hear me, I'll just keep going a little bit.
Keep it trucking.
Yeah, start with the food security plants. Right? Get the plants in the ground, and the designer will tell you exactly what they are, exactly where to plant them, how deep to make the soil, how to create the mulch, and all the different guild plants that go around it to make for the most incredible yield.
Yeah, so I'm imagining that this design plan changes based on climate, right? I mean, where I live and where you live is very different.
Yes, 100%. So I've got a baby food forest that is already producing massively, and it's 15 months old. My buddy in northern Minnesota, near the tip of Lake Superior, has 300 different types of edible and medicinal plants in his food forest. 5 years in, and it is paradise. When you walk onto his property, you can feel the frequency. It's like an elevation of life everywhere. And so there's moose there and there's deer there. He's got raspberries as fences that are like 10 feet tall and you can't see through them. And no moose is going to walk through those raspberries, right? Yeah. So you create natural barriers, and he's got animals. He's got birds that have never been documented in the United States living in his food forest because it's paradise. Yeah. It's so cool.
Yeah. So if someone wanted to just have a design plan built out, I know this is is it so much per acre? Is it just based upon how big it is? How does that all work?
Typically it is. So you're looking at about $1,300, $1,200-$1,300 to design a 1/4 acre to be maxed out, right? And that's 7 layers of food in a full food forest guild. It's about $1,900 to design an acre. It's about $3,000 to design 3 acres, and then we go custom. And we had a friend who just got a design. He's had 3 designs for his property, and this one is now almost. In fact, this week is the finish of his. He's got almost a $200,000 food forest install. His first design was $8,000, and he threw it away because it just didn't fit the agricultural zone and the microclimates and the pieces of the property that were relevant. Our design team is awesome. We had 45 designers, and now we've elevated about 19 of them to be kind of our premium designers. And then everybody else that's coming into our design team becomes a student of our like master designers. And so every designer we're working with is an experienced permaculture professional. And I tell you what, these people do, the amount that they make per hour, it should be 10 times that, quite frankly.
Yeah. Well, it's also, I don't know how much you guys put into this, but where I live, Jim, my property, my dirt, my soil, my land is very different than my neighbors.
Yeah.
It's just not all the same. And so can you guys have people who will come out and do, on-site surveys or any of that kind of stuff?
Yep. It's a little bit more, of course, to have somebody travel and do that. But our goal is to assist and help people grow food, to inspire and empower people. So we'll do whatever we can do logically to work with all of the permaculture designers around the world to fulfill that goal. Yeah. The only people we won't work with are people who advocate for force and violence. And unfortunately, a lot of the permaculture movement went that way, just like all the movements. It's about a 50-50 split down the middle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you say advocate for force and violence, what do you mean? Could you go into that a little more? Yes, I think that can be very misconstrued.
Yeah, it can. So we are about the permaculture ethics are do no harm. In other words, any type of system that's held up by force and violence, like taxation, like the government, like traffic stops, right? If no harm has been done, then it's unlawful to detain me for any freaking thing, right? Mm-hmm. And so, force and violence is the nature of the system we are currently living under, and that we are exposing and we are overcoming and overstanding this ignorant system.
Yeah, you and I had this conversation, but I just think that statement very easily could be read as turn the other cheek.
Oh man, we go directly at it. Like I'm very right. Very public about our declarations of freedom. And that there's something about faith and courage being the armor of God. Right? I'm not a biblical scholar at all, but there's something magical about that, because when you stand with truth and when you stand in service to humanity, to yourself, your family, your community, and your world in such a way, nobody wants to mess with that.
Yeah. It's hard to argue with.
Yeah, it is. And I'll argue. If anybody wants to debate me on it, come on. Let's talk about it, because I understand what I'm saying is revolutionary. What I'm saying is the best way to win this war that we are in is to not fight it.
Right.
Is to turn away from it, but not turn the other cheek. I'm talking about the best. If all my neighbors were in their gardens and they had guns on their side belt, that would make me feel secure.
Right. Yeah, I think it's we talk about this on my channel all the time about it's not about fighting them, it's about ignoring them.
Yeah.
It's about, exiting the system, as Galt's landing symbolizes, right? About just saying, hey, I'm not participating no more. I'm doing my own thing.
Yeah, I'm not participating. You can do whatever you want. I'm going to do whatever I want. If you don't want me to do what I want to do, well, you're going to use force and violence against me. Then we are going to use the light against you, because darkness does not like the light. So we're going to use that light of social media with massive amounts of cameras. And we are going to go to the individual. And this is so important. No more generalizing, right? Mm-hmm. Let's get to the individual perpetrators of force and violence, and let's call them out, and let's invite them to do good, or incarcerate them or whatever. But Start with the invite.
Yeah, times are really tough right now, Jim. I know you know this, and the world's really weird and, and all of these things. And, I could easily see it going a lot of different directions, but you give me hope.
Well, you do. You give me hope too, brother. You cracked the code that I did not. And I'm so appreciative. And for I will share this with everybody, Tag, and say, you've got such a great model for developing. And your whole thing is about freedom.
Yes. It's 100. What Jim's talking about is the word sovereignty. The magical piece of you can't speak freedom and then require a bunch of rules and you just can't do it. If you're going to be free, you got to be free, and people have to be free to make whatever choice they want to make. Now that doesn't make them free of the consequences of their decisions, but it does make them free to make their own decision. Yeah. And that's what freedom is. And so that's what Jim's talking about. Is him and I had a long talk in Georgia about this exact word, sovereignty, and what really it meant, and how from when I was growing up and I was coming through this, I seen a lot of groups and things like that break apart, and that's really what it always came down to, is sovereignty. Always. Yeah. And so our model here, what we've decided to do is just take over the whole county, and hopefully someday half the state or whatever, by just buying 40 acres, 80 acres, 120 acres, 10 acres, 6 acres, and you just keep doing it. You just keep doing it. And you wake up one day and you're like, man, there's a lot of people. That's pretty cool.
It's so beautiful. And then this is the other thing that you're doing that I find so beautiful is you're inspiring people to run for office.
Yes.
Yes. Now, because good people don't want to control other people. Good people do not typically strive for office, and that's why we must strive for office.
Well, I think it's even bigger than that, Jim. I think office is a big one, but I think, we talk about, the school boards, the offices, the county commissioners and that stuff, but there's more to it. You know what? If you're listening to this podcast, and you're a police officer who believes in freedom and constitutional rights and property rights, and you are one of the good guys, come to my community, because I want to take over the police department too. And while we're at it, let's take over the fire department. And while we're at it, let's put constitutional teachers in the actual schools who will stop teaching our kids this bullshit. Or let's create our own homeschool co-op where we'll just do it for ourselves anyway outside of the system. So I really think you can infiltrate every single measurable occupation and service-related item in a county. I think you can absolutely do it with time and pressure.
Yes, and by demonstrating the results of it, right? So we're opening a school at Galt Signing, 25 kids, probably 7th through 12th grade, maybe K through 12, but we haven't figured that component out. But the kids' primary objective in the school is to learn to be sovereign, to create their own self-needs in entrepreneurialism, and to grow their own food. As soon as they're done growing their own food, then they go into their family's yards and they grow all the food their families needs. And then when they're done with that, they go into the community and they install food forests in the community. And what happens when we create value? We get paid. This school within 12 months will be self-funded based on the value that it provides society.
Yeah. Jim, we've got a school here that when we've got someone on the school board, we have a school here who they offer that the whole gardening and permaculture classes in school.
Wow.
And you can take that class just like you can take welding, just like you can take, carpentry. They have that there too, and they sell it and they make good money doing it. They supply a whole part of our community, not the community as far as our community, but the geographical community. They supply a lot of them with their garden plants and their tomatoes and their peppers and their things that grow every year. It's going on right now, which is really pretty cool.
And, I would love to chat with those folks. It would be good to talk with them and find out what they've learned and see if there's any way we might be able to help. We're doing the nursery. The kids will be propagating plants and planting seeds, and then the school will share 50% of the nursery profits. And everybody wins. The teachers get paid 50% more. The kids learn how to live in the real world. The parents get an epic return on their investment. And the only people that don't win are the deep state, are the BlackRock indoctrinators.
Yeah, this particular school, when they did the mask mandates, they said no, and the feds threatened to take all their money away, and they held their ground. They're the only school I know of that never mandated masks during any of it, through the whole thing. But anyway, I know the superintendent really, really well, Jim, and I can absolutely get you guys in contact. Absolutely.
man,
Easy done.
thank you. That's so cool. I love that. You know, speaking about schools, it's a massive energy structure. So did you hear about this? Kennedy is going to be at the schools surrounded by kids. He's going to be talking about how we take the poisons out, because he goes against the poisons pretty hard. How we take the poisons out of the school lunches that have been causing so much pain and suffering and disease for the kids. Take the poisons out of the landscapes of the school and use the logical landscapes around the edges of the school yards and wherever's logical to grow all the food that they can grow at the school. That one thing from the top down would change the world.
Yeah. Man. But you totally inspire me, you know? And like I said, I don't know if you could, I don't know how it works, if you can hear me when I introduced you or not, but, you know, when I was going through that, I told people, I said, I'm a high strung guy and most people can't keep up with me, but Jim, you might be the one that can, you know, beyond keep up with me. Well, you know, I love the energy. It's completely badass. And what you're saying is 100% true. You know, we've got to stand up. All of us got to stand up together. And, you know, I'm in the fight, and Jim, I know you're in the fight, and I'm going to challenge everybody out here. Go get in the fight. Even though it's not really a fight, it's more of an ignore. But get in the ignore. I don't know how you want to word that. We need to come up with a phrase. What is that phrase?
John Bush says exit and build. I love that one.
Exit and build. Okay, got it.
Exit and build, create food self-reliance, and then say no to all forms of tyranny publicly.
Yeah. You know, I don't know John Bush. I've attempted to get in touch with him a couple times, but because I like what he has to say too. I've never met him though, but you know, Derek Bros, you know him, right? Yeah, he was down there. Yeah, Derek and I talk from time to time on there, but there's a whole bunch of us freedom warriors out there. We need to figure out how to get together and do some big roundtables or something, huh?
Dude, I'll make a connection right after this to John, and yes, that's exactly right. When we come together, and because all of us have skills and we've all figured out a piece of the puzzle. When we come together and lay our puzzle on the table, boom, we're free.
Yeah, man, how amazing is that? So your guys' community, you know, the Galt's Landing that you guys have, are you guys selling off property? Are you trying to grow it? Tell me what's going on with that.
I'm so glad you asked. So we started out with this blank canvas of just cattle pasture. I mean, it had the lake and the runway there already, which was already happening. But when we first tried to start selling, I said tried because nobody wanted to buy anything. They're like, I'm not interested, because we're selling lots for $400,000 for a 1 acre lot, and nobody wanted one. When we put the food forest in the ground, I get calls, multiple calls a week now, asking if they could please buy into Galt's Landing. They say the price doesn't really matter because some of these people have a lot of money. I'm like, sold out a long time ago, right? So what it's implying there is if you're a developer and you want to develop land that has massive value, then put a food forest as part of your development into the mix. And the Freedom Farm Academy, by the way, is the most logical first step, because a Freedom Farm Academy has all of the components of a decentralized off-grid community, so people can come in and they can experience it, and they'll be like, oh my God, I'll take that lot, and I want this, this, and this, and this, and this component. It's such a cool business model. Yeah,
well, and you know, then that Freedom Farm Academy becomes those central hubs of all of the communities, and then as we network all of those communities together, you become the parallel economy, right?
Do. Yes, and it's a nursery. A food forest is by its very nature a nursery. So it functions, it stacks all the functionality.
Yeah, that's just amazing. You know, I can see the big picture. Good. And you and I need to talk more about how to get whether it's here or anywhere else, because I know lots and lots of homesteaders, but how to get a Freedom Farm Academy out in the Midwest.
Oh man, let's do it. We've got now 16 or 17 going up around the world, Ghana and Thailand, a couple in Canada, the rest of the United States. We want one per county. We want 3,500 of these things around, because every one of them becomes a functional element of the decentralized society.
Right. Yeah. Right. It just makes perfect sense. So is there anything out in the Midwest? Is there anything in Nebraska or Iowa or Missouri or?
Well, there's some, let me see. There's going to be one in North Dakota with Pat Miletich and one in Minnesota with Travis Wholesome, but we're looking for more. There's a few in Texas, California. But
Yeah.
no, I think we need some there.
Yeah. So let's maybe off this, we won't do it here on the slide, but maybe, you know, afterwards or maybe through emails or something, you know, give me the details. Let's see if we can figure out how to put one in the middle of the country.
You
Be a
got
great
it.
hub.
I love it. So, you know, that's what I'll do. I've got another call here in about 2 minutes, another podcast, but I'll get a hold of you. I'll send you some details tonight, and let's have a chat about if this makes sense for one of your places there.
Yeah, perfect. Well, Jim, I know you're getting ready to go, but you got any parting words for anybody? I mean, you're a big freedom stud, so lay it on us. Give us your parting words.
It's time. Like in the history of the world, this is the biggest opportunity in the history of the world. And it's time to step up. It's time to go through the fear, the disease, the worry, the concern, all that BS. Let that go. Literally take a breath, step into the present moment and be freaking real. You are one with source. You're one with nature. You're one with God. Live like you are. Take all the poisons out, turn off all the mainstream media bullshit and start living free and then demonstrating freedom. And what will come to you from that will be mind-blowingly good stuff.
Jim, you are the godfather, bud, and I love what you're doing. I am a supporter. I can help in any way, anytime, any place, anywhere. You let me know, and tag will be there, free man hat on, and I'll bring some spares.
I love it. I want to sell these free hat, and you'll get a royalty on it. All right, brother. Love you, man.
We'll see you. Thank you, my friend.
All right.
Yep. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed the 56 minutes. You know, Jim is an amazing guy, and you know, there's I've spoke all over the world and all over places, you know, in business and this, and there's those few people who get up on stage who you can tell, man, they just absolutely bleed their mission. You know, that there is nothing else but that blood. And he is absolutely one of them. And so you guys go over there and check him out. You know, he does the Jim Gale show on YouTube, although they kicked him off and he's trying to start again, and Food Forest Abundance. And if you're interested in, you know, getting one of these Freedom Farm Academies started, or you're interested in growing, you know, permaculture, having them help you with Food Forest, God, reach out to him, because I'm telling you, at the end of the day, that guy's a freedom warrior. And, you know, what better place to put your money in than places that are, you know, with people who are freedom warriors. So anyway, I'm going to get out of here and get back out in the woods. I got lots of work to do. But until we do it again, hold the line. Don't give an inch. Tag out. See you guys.